Hey guys, I'm finally getting back to finishing off this Sparton Jr. Right now I'm working on the cabinet and restoring the original finish as best I can. What I'm using is Howard's Restore Finish, which, well, as you can read here, eliminates white heat rings, watermarks, blends out scratches and blemishes, restores color and luster to faded finishes, will not dissolve existing finish. And then in the picture here, they just show somebody using a rag, which works all right if it's just some very, very minor blemishes, but I found that steel wool works a lot better. I'm using p6o8 steel wool. Soak the product into it and then rub on the surface. I've already done this side. It came out quite nice. There's a few things I'm trying to accomplish here. One is there's a lot of alligatoring in the old finish. That's what happens to lacquer over time. It cracks up and scales like an alligator skin. Also, there were some blemishes or chucks in the finish. Now, it's not going to replace lost finish, like there's some dings in here, so you know it's not going to make it perfect, but what it will do is if you rub fairly aggressively, the solution will somewhat dissolve the old surface and make it a lot smoother. It won't completely re-amalgamate it or like melt it back together, but I think it does a pretty good job. I should also mention this comes in various colors. I'm using walnut because this is a walnut cabinet. It's a real good match. This comes in a variety of colors like mahogany, cherry, oak, and there's neutral, which is just clear, which is great for blonde cabinets, or if you can't get a good color match, it won't add any color to it. It will just help you blend out any defects. The color, it's not like stain. It won't like sit on top of it, but as you rub it in, it will, a small amount of it will penetrate and helps to blend out any variations in the old finish color. One thing I should mention though is that if it's an old piece that has built up a lot of character, I guess you could say, with areas where maybe it's got worn from where somebody's hand is rubbed, or some darker areas and nooks and crannies. If you use this a lot and go over all those nooks and crannies and areas, it's actually going to take out all those darkened areas, and it's going to look maybe too new. So be careful where you use it. Like on here, I don't mind. I think this looks pretty good, but it did take out some of the dark areas in the grooves here, where probably dirt and whatnot had accumulated. Now, the other thing this is great for is if you have any little paint splatters on it. Like, I think just about everything that I've ever picked up has little bits of white paint, speckles all over it. There were some on this side I've already gotten out. On the top, well, there's one right here, and there's another one right here. This works really, really well. Basically, just make sure it's got some stuff on it, and you rub it, and gradually that paint will disappear without you having to use sandpaper or a razor blade or something to try to nick that off, or having to try to use a solvent. I've heard you can use like paint thinner or whatnot, some solvent that will not attack the lacquer but will dissolve the paint. And I guess if it's latex paint, I think even warm water might work. But since I'm going to be using this anyways over the whole surface, I don't mind doing this. I mean, you know, I'll just have this do double duty to both clean up the old finish and get rid of the paint. It's just about gone. Bear in mind I am right-handed and I'm doing this left-handed right now, so I'm not putting as much force in as I normally would. I get the idea. It's virtually gone. A little bit more rubbing and it'll be completely gone. Let's see. There were also a couple finials up on top. I think that's what these are called. Luckily they were pretty loose, so I was able to pop those out, which means I can clean up this area and then glue them back down. I'll remove these screws on the front, and this is nailed on with 2 small nails down there and 1 up here. I'm going to try to get this off so I can clean up this whole area around it, but if it's too much trouble, I don't think I'll bother. I've been rubbing away at this top for about an hour now, and I think it's about as good as it's going to get. Got rid of all the paint flux and all the blemishes, and now I'm cleaning off all the residue. You don't want to let this solution sit and dry on the surface, and after the initial wiping off, you may need to come back once or twice after a while, because it will come oozing out of any cracks or crevices possibly. I'll let it sit overnight to make sure it really dries out, and then I will apply some of this Howard's Feed and Wax, which is beeswax and orange oil. The orange oil will help preserve the wood, and the wax will give a nice shine to it. I guess, let's see, you saturate a small pad of cloth, wipe it on, let it stand about 20 minutes and wipe it off, and then buff it out with a clean soft cloth. One thing you really don't want to do on antiques is use something like Pledge, which has silicates in it. They will really mess up the old finish, and also make it a nightmare if you ever want to refinish it or use something like Howard's again. Because it's a synthetic product and it just doesn't play well with old finishes. But anything like beeswax or lemon oil or orange oil, whatnot, stuff works really well with old finishes. Alright, so a couple more sides to do, and I think this will be done.